Hi everybody, Russ and My Hammers 11. Hope you're all safe and well. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell icon to be made aware of any time we put new content on. Obviously, throughout the whole of September, we're doing our Iron Supporting Food Banks charity quiz nights every Thursday. So make sure you subscribe and set reminders when they come on because they're all good fun. And we hope to raise £20,000 by the end of September. Today's guest, very vocal on Twitter, is old Dan. It's Dan Silver. How are you, Dan?
I'm very good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. I'm very, very well.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on. We've, in terms of revealing the fourth wall, me and Dan have had it's taken a while for me and Dan to sort of touch base, but we've got there eventually. Good things come to those that wait.
Well, we'll see about that. No, I'll get your opinion at the end of this.
He'd be like, "Oh God, what?" No, I'm joking. How's things with you, particularly in sort of the new world we live in at the moment?
I'm healthy and I've still got a job, so that's the two things that I kind of got to be thankful for at the moment. One of my children has gone back to school as of yesterday, so life has started easing up a bit. The other one goes back next week, and then me and the wife will be on Easy Street again. So
Oh God, yeah.
things are looking up.
I know. My daughter's going back on Monday. She's 8, and so yeah, it's going to be a bit weird. I'm dreading Monday morning, actually, to be honest.
Okay, well,
Just
I mean, we were a little bit worried about yesterday, but it went absolutely fine.
yeah,
And then, just want to get the other one out next week, and then hopefully try and get back to a little bit of normality.
yeah, as much as you
What
can at
approach
the
to
moment. Yeah,
normality is
I mean, I
there?
think yeah, it is. I mean, it's one of those things where I mean, I'm all for it, because I think it's brilliant that the kids go back because I just think it gives a sense of normality, and as long as people are sensible, obviously we've got these. I know our school's got like different drop off times, so. She's on the but it's obviously the adults don't mingle too much. The kids are right. It's the
Yeah.
adults are the trouble, isn't it?
I
But
know, they were dying to get back.
yeah, exactly. They can't wait. They've had enough of
No
bless them
worries at
though.
all from there.
No, they don't know exactly. There's no they haven't got any sort of worries or anything at all. And at the end of the day, they're on their. I think it'd be nice just to see friends again because obviously it's all on the
Yeah.
iPad, isn't it? And house party and Robux and all that type of thing. So yeah, no,
Fortnite's our kind of
I
social
that's
playground here. Yeah,
That's
Fortnite
your
all
go-to.
afternoon.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
Roblox or Robux. I don't know what it is. I just she just come up to me every so often. Can I have some more Robux? Yeah, of course you can. Well, I actually made sure I put the restriction on my account because originally I didn't. I just caught it in time before she went a bit crazy. But yeah, it is what it is. But bless them. And obviously, we're still in the Premier League. Doesn't matter what's happening in the world. We're still in the Premier League, Dan. That's
Yeah,
what matters.
maybe for a season, but yeah, we're still there.
What this season will be, what this season will be, Dan. As you know, you're a long serving and a long suffering West Ham fan. We've been doing it for years, so we'll see what happens, isn't it? It's these types of seasons that they just turn it on. It's weird. It's weird. So everything's sort of against us. Everyone at the moment it seems. And and that's when West Ham seems to sort of the players seem to pull a couple of performances out of the bag, and we'll need to the first few games. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Although, I mean, I am an absolute pessimist and a cynic, and I just can't escape this notion that our luck is finally running out.
Mm.
The last few years in particular, we've been riding our luck a fair bit at the London Stadium, and I don't know, this one just feels like a bad one. No, I mean, I say this every
Yeah,
single
exactly.
season, so, and I've been proved right a couple of times, but more often not proved wrong. But I've got a bad feeling about this one.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm always an eternal optimist, and so it's like every close season, I'm always right. This season's our season, and I still think we'll do all right. The only thing that worries me a little bit, in all honesty, is returning back to normality. In this sort of behind closed doors world, they performed really well, and it might be a pressure thing. I don't know, but getting the fans back in may be the worst thing that happens to us this season. Do you know what I mean? We were like League B. We
Yeah,
were like the demolition team of the Premier League. We got how many managers sacked last year and things like that, and how many teams we relegated. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what
it's
happens.
true. It's true. Maybe we'll have to pass a very stringent questionnaire to be able to get into that ballot. Will you support the team? Will you mouth off about the owners? Yes, no, right, you're not coming in.
Well, it is what. Yeah, it was funny. I've been interviewing people, of all different ages, and it's always really interesting to interview the more experienced fans, I call them. The old farts, and
Nice euphemism.
nice euphemism. But they've and they that was obviously people talk about what's in the current squad and things like that and ownership, and he goes, do you know what? It's ever since I've been supporting that since the '60s. We had 3 of the World Cup winners in our team, and we still finished 6th. No better than that. We had 3 of the best players in the world, and we still we had a couple of cut runs, but we didn't do nothing in the league. And do you know what? When you put it in that sort of light, you go, oh yeah, fair enough. And it's always been, I've always known us to be that sort of, you get your peaks and troughs, don't you? You get the Redknapp era, finishing 5th, Intertoto Cup glory.
Yeah. I prefer a few more peaks than troughs.
But I think everyone will. Everyone will. But I was talking to someone the other day, and they made a really good point. They were like, it must be, I think what makes West Ham fans is that sort of more trough than peak mentality. We know the trough's coming, and we enjoy the peaks even more. If we were winning, it's lovely to say, but if we did win the league one year, and beat all these teams, we wouldn't know what to do with ourselves, I don't think, because we'll be expecting next season to be relegated. There's no, we'll concentrate on the Champions League.
We would absolutely follow up a league win with a relegation. That would be the most West Ham thing to do.
Yeah.
But just one more trophy in my lifetime would be nice.
Well, just one for me. I mean, into total, I'll give them that. But yeah, one trophy would be nice. I mean, 1980, obviously, I was just a glint in my dad's eye at the time. So not too far of a glint, but yeah. In the loins, ready to go apparently. Something would be nice. I just think it's we don't ask for a lot, do we? I'd take the Carabao Cup this year. It's the only thing we haven't won. And
I used to think, and I think I wrote this once as well, so it's probably on the internet if you want to find it, that just a couple of good results against Tottenham and a cup run was all we really wanted out of the season, until Avram Grant proved me absolutely wrong by getting a couple of good results against Tottenham, a cup run to the semi-final, and then getting relegated. And it's like, yeah, actually, maybe there's a little bit more to it than that, but there's not too much more to it than that. No. That's all you kind of want from a season: a couple of good results, a bit of a cup run, and we're never going to win the league, but it would be nice to get some more silverware.
Yeah. But West Ham are one of those teams that surprises you, and it's like you could easily. I'll be just as surprised if we won the league as if we got relegated. You just don't know, and that's why. I was trying to sort of pinpoint why I sort of support West Ham, and I think it's because you don't know what team's turning up. You don't know, it is quite exciting. It'd be lovely to turn over teams 4-0, do Liverpool or Man City, and every game winning, but you turn up every game, you don't know what team's going to turn up, how we're going to play. And, if you thought 20 years ago you were turning up to see us play Bradford City, on a Saturday, and then that sort of game that happened, that is just West Ham. It is just so West Ham. And that's what I love about them. I just think they're so unpredictable. And that's why people... Yeah, keep going. I think that hardens you as a fan and as a community. Do you know what I mean? It's
true, and I'm kind of having these conversations now with my children. So my eldest is 13, and he is a West Ham obsessive. But it was kind of touch and go early on. I'm from East London, but my wife's from South East London. So when she was pregnant, we kind of got dragged down against my will south of the river. I've lived down here now for 14 years and still in denial, if I'm absolutely honest. So we're in a kind of big Palace area, but obviously the kids' school friends all support Palace, and there's a lot of Man United still, a lot of Chelsea, a lot of Arsenal, and supporting West Ham in that kind of environment is a real test of character. And for the first couple of years of his kind of football consciousness, my eldest was like, please, can I support somebody else, please? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Your middle name is Moore, so I've kind of baked it into your life now, and you're just going to have to put up with it. And now he wouldn't have it any other way. And West Ham get B, he goes to football training and gets ripped out of him by the rest of his teammates. And, it's just water off a duck's back now. But it's that old cliche, it is character building. And I think it does kind of set you up for, the realities of life. Because life isn't going to be a bed of roses. Life isn't going to be Champions League every year. Life isn't going to be success. And supporting West Ham really drums that into you. And it allows you just to take pleasure out of the small little victories that you get in life. So, it's like it's actually done us all good.
Yeah.
That's the positive I'm taking out of it.
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned about sort of your journey to become a West Ham fan. Was it always, obviously you come from East London, was it always going to be West Ham? Was your family West Ham?
No, not at all. So I don't really come from a football family at all. And in fact, the reason I'm a West Ham fan, I'm actually like the world's worst glory hunter. So I was watching the 1980 FA Cup final on TV. I was 6 years old, and I've got two older sisters, and one of them kind of walked in and looked at the TV, and she's like, "Oh, who are you supporting?" And West Ham were 1-0 up, and I was like, "Oh, West Ham," because they were winning. And she's like, "Well, good, they're our local team." And I'm like, "Oh, good, okay, great." So I support West Ham, and West Ham won that game, and I was like, "Great, we've won the FA Cup. Life's going to be absolutely brilliant." And 40 years later, life wasn't absolutely brilliant. And I do often wonder how my life would have turned out if Arsenal had been winning at the point that my sister walked in and said, "Who are you supporting?" But it wasn't to be. West Ham became my team, and that's kind of been the rest of my life. So no, it is really pure chance and geography. But I mean, my dad wasn't really into football at all. And when I started supporting West Ham, he kind of tried to get into football, bless him. He had a lot of business dealings in Luton at the time. So he decided to pick Luton as his team, which at the time, we were kind of both in the top division. So he kind of fell out of love with that pretty quickly as well. So it was like just me kind of ploughing my own field, unfortunately. But he used to own a sports shop in Leytonstone, actually, called Monarch Sports on Leytonstone High Road.
Oh, yeah.
And so he worked sort of every Saturday. So he couldn't really take me to games. Like, younger viewers might be surprised to learn that games always used to be on a Saturday in those days. So the first game I actually went to, a friend of his took me, a guy called Phil Pincus. He used to sell moon boots. If you remember moon boots, this is going to be quite a nostalgia heavy section, I'm afraid. And he was a West Brom fan. So my first game was it was a defeat, 1-0 defeat to West Brom in the January 1983. I can't really remember too much about it. It was cold. It was pretty miserable. I've got one image that's kind of just stuck in my mind of Jeff Pike kind of kicking a ball, his leg kind of perpendicular to the ground, and that's all I can remember of that game. But my second game, my dad took me for my 10th birthday. He took me and my friend from school, Richard. And it was the day of my 10th birthday, so October 25th, 1983. And it was a League Cup game midweek against Bury, and we won 10-0 on my 10th birthday. So I think that was the point at which, you could not have wrested West Ham out of me from then. It was written in the stars. And, that was pretty much as good as it got as well. So it was all downhill after that.
Well, those first two games gave you a sort of a microcosm of West Ham in general. We've lost, and then they'll keep you going. It's like, they'll keep you hanging on. They keep you hanging on, and then they keep you hanging on. And it's like, but it is sort of. It's just indicative of. I mean, I think my first game. I think the opposition scored after about 30 seconds. So you can imagine sort of like me, even with my scarf and my bubble out, all excited, and 30 seconds in. It's like, oh great, okay. But there we go. And I remember because my granddad turned to me and went, "That's it. Get used to it. You've got a lifetime of this." Yeah. And I never really believed him, and until now, obviously. But but I mean, and obviously you've passed the curse down to your children. Is that the right way to say it? And as you said, there was a little bit of dodgy ground until it's been reaffirmed. I mean, but that's what it's all about, isn't it? I think that's the thing I've missed since sort of restart, and obviously definitely for the first few games next season at the very least, is sort of just everyone together. Do you know what I mean? And it is about going with your sons and your family, and seeing the same blokes and having a beer, and that's what people miss, and you can tell they're missing it because everyone's trying to recreate it on Twitter and Facebook. It's just not the same, is it? It's just not the same.
It's not the same, no. But I mean, really, the uncomfortable truth is it might never be the same again.
Yeah,
Or
true. Yeah,
certainly not for a good few years. So, we might be the last sort of generation that kind of had that experience. Like, I mean,
possibly.
who knows how this will play out?
Yeah, you just don't know.
We can only hope we'll get back to something like that. But it's going to be, I think, at least a couple of years, and even then, the culture might have been changed forever.
Yeah, no, you're true.
I'm a pessimist.
Yeah, no, I get that. And also, just I mean, the way viewing football's changed now, isn't it? I mean, it's like in the space of a few months, you wouldn't think of seeing every game. I mean, in the UK and the US and other places, they have every game televised, but literally every game's televised, and it's just people want to go back and watch it, and they get a better view at TV. There's no risk of any infection, and you just don't know how people are going to react and stuff. It's like I went back into London for the first time to the office on Tuesday, and it was just the most bizarre thing in the world. And then chatting today about it, and like to people there, and they go, well, the trouble is we lost like 2 hours each way, on the commute, and then we all spent half an hour chatting to each other, and it's like at the end of the day, that's 2.5 hours we missed of our work day, and it's like we're fair enough. Nowadays it's just everything's going to be remote now, and I don't think there's going to be any sort of need for it, which is horrible thinking about. Are you a crowd noise on or off person? Do you still think there's a crowd there or not?
I would rather off,
really?
But my kids want it on, so the kids win out, unfortunately. I mean, I think it's a fascinating window into the communication that goes on at that level, which I mean, our seats at the London Stadium might as well be in space, so we're lucky to be able to see the players, let alone hear them. So getting an insight into how they interact on the pitch, I think has been a real eye opener. But my kids just want to pretend that it's real football, so we have the sound on.
Well, it's the FIFA generation, isn't it? It's it's like but it's, and also it's like it saves any sort of awkward conversations if you put it on, and it's like you've got David Moyes shouting at that type of stuff. At least you sort of a little bit shield that away from the
that's the bit I think that certainly the youngest one enjoys the most about going to football. Sitting just hearing people swear for a few hours, it's like he's not so into the football. In fact, my youngest one's just turned 12. Halfway through last season, actually, it was the Tottenham game when we were 3-0 down. He just had his head in his hands. Was like, I never want to come back here, and he hasn't been back since. To be fair,
fair play. Well, you've been doing it for about the best part of 40 years, and you still come back. It only took him half a season this season.
I think he's the clever one, right? He's worked it out, but he, I think he used to get more out of the theatre of it all, and just like he doesn't care for the actual football that much, but just love the journey, walking up to the ground with 50,000 other people, and just the hum and the buzz. I mean, we talk about a lot about how the atmosphere has kind of gone out of modern football compared to what it was. But if this is your first experience, it's still that kind of life-changing electricity. You've never been in crowds that big. You've never been in anywhere with that kind of edge to it. And as sanitized as modern football is, it's still like a kind of massive culture change for kids who are kind of going for the first time. And you can see when they get that bug. And like I say, my youngest kind of stuck it out for 3 seasons, even though he didn't really like the football. But my eldest, is now down for life. I think
it's just sort of, it's like osmosis, isn't it? It just takes over you. You blink and you've been a season ticket holder for 25 years. And where's that gone? Like quantum leap type thing. But that's the thing. I totally agree with you. I think it's having a different perception, isn't it? And I think it's like particularly what's happened in the last 3 or 4 months, last 6 months really. the perception of children compared to the perception of adults. Kids are like, great, yeah, we've got no school for 6 months, and yeah, okay, I'm going to talk to my friends on a house party rather than see them face to face. Where we're like, oh my god,
it's the end of civilization,
and it's like, and they just like, yeah, no probs, carry on, because that's the world they've grown up with, and it's the same true with football. And I think that's obvious. That's where I think there's a lot of difference of opinion sometimes from younger fans to more experienced fans, is they have that sort of nostalgic area of where they'd walk down the road and Bobby Moore would be in the pub, and it's not like that, and it isn't like that anymore. The world has changed, unfortunately, and football has changed, unfortunately. Even in my lifetime, but even in sort of when I started supporting sort of the early 90s, when I was going properly, as I've said many times, I used to work at a supermarket in Loughton and in Essex, and they'd all lived there. So you would, more often than not, be serving Shaka Hislop or Samasi Abu buying their apples or whatever. But nowadays you don't get that. They're all in Canary Wharf apartments and stuff, and that's just, as you said, it's indicative of modern football in general.
It is, and I think there will always be older generations that just can't adapt or don't want to adapt and want to have things the way they were. I mean, look at the furore over the popcorn at London Stadium, right? I mean, grown men would get thrown out of that ground fighting because someone was eating popcorn, right? If it gets a kid into the ground, if it makes a kid's day that little bit more enjoyable, then why does it really matter? It's like generations change, expectations change, the way that we experience stuff changes, and you just got to roll with it. When I worked on the New Musical Express on the NME for 5 years, and that's this in a microcosm. Everybody thinks that the NME that they grew up, that they read when they were growing up, is the best the NME's ever been, and anything that came afterwards is shit. So whether you read it in the 80s, the 90s, the late 90s, the early 2000s, whatever comes afterwards, the next generation is not for you, and that's fine. Like, it doesn't have to be for you. It's for the next generation. But if you devote all of your energies just to being negative and slagging the next generation off, like, what a waste of your life. It's like, true. Just accept you have what you had, and the next generation are going to have what they have, and the sooner you accept that, the happier you will be. So popcorn and all.
True. It's so true. It's so true. It's so true. And I think and that's why I quite like interviewing lots of different people. So I don't just pick 30 to 50-year-old men, or just because otherwise it's going to be boring. They all talk about the same thing. It's not going to appeal to people. And I like talking to people because obviously the younger fans, even younger fans, maybe people who've only just started supporting West Ham in the last 3 or 4 years, American fans, they've got a different perspective, and they haven't had that all punched out of them for the last 40 years. So they're really enthusiastic, and that's what I love about interviewing different people. And that's why we do this Hammers 11, because the idea being is the only rule is you have to be alive to have seen them play. Otherwise, everyone would have put Bobby Moore in their team. Everyone would have put Billy Bonds. I mean, I never saw Billy play. I never saw Bobby play. Never saw Trevor Brooking play. So my reference point isn't them. My reference point is Javier Margas, Laurent Courtois, and David Di Michele. So that's my reference point, and that's what I think, because it's not. But then at the same time, it's nice to listen to people from who were around when Bobby was playing, and just because it's a different, you get all these memories and you get what people talk about, but listening firsthand all these different sort of stories, that's what I love. And I've learned a lot. I've learned loads about the West Ham history, which I was naive to completely, like John Childs and people, all these stories which I never knew about. So that's why we keep going, basically. Right, so for your 11, Dan, as I said, the only rule is have to be alive to see them play. That's the only rule. You can do whatever you want. You can put a theme. You can do whatever. But as long as you've been alive to see them play. Alive, not necessarily seen live. I always say that because obviously to not differentiate people who haven't been to the ground yet.
So I did impose a rule on myself.
Nice.
So and it's actually kind of turned into a 21st century 11. So I mean, there's a little bit of kind of face saving here, because my memory is ridiculously bad. I have an awful memory. I spent many years as a music journalist listening to incredibly loud music and traveling the world with rock and roll bands, and unfortunately it takes a little bit out of you. So
There we go. I thought that was...
my memory for the old days is not what it was. So I thought, right, I'll kind of concentrate on the period when I was kind of started going really intensely. So I kind of got my first season ticket in 1997. Then just kind of come back from university, and me and a few pals who were kind of West Ham fans, we all kind of clubbed in, and we decided we'd go properly. Some of them had season tickets when they were kids. I didn't, so it's kind of my first kind of proper, like intensely watching period. So that's where kind of all my strongest kind of memories are. And then I've tried to pick, so it's quite an esoteric selection as well. So these obviously are not the best players. Some of them aren't even my favourite players, but they're players that either are attached to a game I was at or a kind of point in my life that kind of really resonates. So okay. I did want to try and peg them all to goals that I saw as well, but I had a bit of trouble with the goalkeeper, so I kind of broken that. I wasn't the game where Adrian smashed his penalty in the FA Cup. So I could have had Adrian, but I decided not to go with him. So it's a bit of an esoteric selection.
Nice,
so
I like it. It's a good word to use.
Thank you. So in goal, I've gone for Rob Green.
Yep, Greeno.
There we go. As we used to nickname him on Mirror Football, the Lion of Rustenburg for his heroics in the 2010 World Cup. And the reason I picked him is, I mean, he was a great goalkeeper for us. Yeah. And I think some of the kind of lesser performances towards the end of his spell and that kind of disastrous England tenure has kind of tarnished his reputation a bit. But in his prime, he was a fantastic goalkeeper. And the game that really sticks in my mind was Arsenal away 2007. So the first time an away team won at the Emirates. It was also my first time in a press box at football ground. So I did have a career in sports journalism for a little bit, but at the time I was working at the NME. But I managed to blag my way in to the press box. I think I'd agreed to. I'd got a few of the players into the NME Awards, and we'll kind of come on to that in a little bit, I'm sure. But so as a return. I agreed to go to the game and write something for the programme. So Miranda Naglingham, who was the press officer at the time.
Yes, I remember
Miranda. So she got me into the press box. So brand new stadium. The Arsenal press box famously had at the time, I think it still does, a fridge full of Häagen-Dazs. So, all the sports journalists, all the football reporters are like, brilliant, free ice cream. This is great. Amazing facility. So I kind of settled in thinking, right, we're going to get a bit of a pace thing here. Obviously, it was the end of that season. We were in pretty desperate straits, and I to this day I still don't know how we won that game.
No.
I think Arsenal had over 30 attempts on goal in that game, I think, and obviously there was a bit of luck as well. But Rob Green's performance that day was immense, and I think it probably almost certainly is the best sort of individual goalkeeping performance I think I've seen. It was incredible, and I just remember sitting there in kind of stunned silence at the end of the game, and the Arsenal fans were all kind of trudging out, moaning, and there's kind of ecstasy in the away end. And I was just sat there looking, and I was still expecting Arsenal to equalise a good 5 minutes after the final whistle had gone. It's just like I was so resigned to that ball going in the net, but it just wasn't. And Rob Green was an absolute giant that day. So there you go. And I think there's a lot to like about Rob. I know he's a bit of a difficult character, and he rubbed a few people up the wrong way. But anyone he gets, England's number 6. Yeah. Stitched into their gloves as a kind of 2 fingers up to the England manager at the time. You gotta love that, right?
Oh, you gotta love it, yeah. And I love. I mean, yeah, we've obviously had a few players on who've spoken about Greeno, and an unusual character, but he didn't take himself too seriously, and you see now of his Really, yeah, that lockdown haircut and stuff. But I like people like that. It's we take ourselves too seriously as a nation. We always have done, particularly sort of the stars and stuff. But they're in a privileged position, and Greeno is, and he knew what he was, and knows what he wasn't. Same as I like Peter Crouch. I think it's the same. What I mean? He just takes the mickey out of himself. I think it's brilliant. But yeah, Greeno's in. Go on, you go through the team, Dan, as you want to, man, as you've got it written down or whatever.
Okay, so let's go with the fullbacks. So, as with modern day, I've kind of struggled a little bit for fullbacks. It seems we've got quite a few attacking options in this team, but there's not a lot at the back. I feel for David Moyes. I absolutely know how he's feeling. But so for left back, bearing in mind 21st century, so I can't have Dixie. So I've gone for Paul Konchesky.
Yeah.
Because obviously the last West Ham player to score in an FA Cup final.
Yes.
And quite possibly will be the last West Ham player ever to score in an FA Cup final. So for that, I think he deserves to be in this team. Although whether he meant it or not, obviously, is very much open to question. But I mean, that day was what a day that was. It was absolutely incredible. And we talk about the highs and lows of being a West Ham fan. I mean, that day kind of just had it all, right? I mean, I remember we set off from London at, God knows, must have been about 7 a.m. There was a van of us, went down, got to Cardiff, was having a whale of a time. It was like, it was our third trip to Cardiff in 3 years.
You knew where the pubs were, didn't you? You knew where the good pubs were, yeah.
And it was just such a good day out. The way that they kind of organised the city, so you had half the team on one side and half the team's fan, the other team's fans, on the other side. It was just a great day out, and we weren't expecting to get told. We didn't really care about the game. We just wanted to have a great day out, and that plan was going perfectly right up until the point we went 2-0 up. And then suddenly, what was just meant to be a nice day out became oh my God, we're going to win this. And it became a stressful football match. And, as the old saying goes, it's the hope that will kill you every time. And while we had no hope, it was fantastic. The second that we got hope in that game, it just all collapsed. It was just horrendous. And those final few minutes of normal time in that game will just kind of haunt me forever. I've not been able to watch it since.
No, me neither, actually. I haven't either, and to be fair. And what I loved about the trip to Cardiff, and again, we talk about modern football and stuff, and Cardiff was an exception to the rule in the fact that it had a really modern, massive stadium slap bang in the middle of the town, wasn't it? And I just loved when everyone, when you got to on the M25, you got there, you got to the bridge, and the toll bridge. You're waiting to get it, and it was just West Ham cars because they all had the ribbons on, and you put your ribbons on, and then for us, we're probably just about got onto the motorway. It's about 5 minutes on, and they brake, and they're flying behind, and it's just that we didn't know what we were doing. We've never been to what do we do? I don't know. Just put like ribbons on. Yeah, that sounds good. And it was just great fun. And I think I had the same car park space for 3 years running. So it was really good. I would just turn around, go.
But you didn't after the first playoff final. You didn't change because you thought it might be another.
No, I should have changed, but no, I didn't. I just kept it as it was, just because I knew where I was going more than anything. So I thought, and then, but no, it was. I mean, that first play. I mean, I still have nightmares of. I close my eyes and I can still see yellow shirts. Bumping up and down, like 30,000 yellow shirts bumped to glad all over. Still haunts me, but
Michael Carrick trudging forlornly off the pitch, dragging his leg.
Knowing that was his last game for West Ham. Yeah. Oh, what could have been? What could have been if it wasn't for Neil Shipley? Anyway, Paul Konchesky's in. Who's next?
Paul Konchesky's in. So I've on the other fullback, I've cheated a little bit. So I've gone for Christian Daly, who did play right back a couple of times. So I'm gonna stick Christian in there. Christian, I actually became a little bit pally with in the kind of mid 2000s through the enemy. So I don't know if you know, but Christian was massively into his music.
Yeah.
He played in a band called South Playground, and he was a friend of mine. He was a friend of a friend of mine in the music industry who was also from Dundee. He was a press officer, So he knew I was West Ham fan. When Christian joined West Ham, he kind of put me in touch. So I got him in to when I was working on Kerrang. So Kerrang, the rock Bible. I got Christian Daly in as a guest reviewer to review the singles. So he kind of trotted up to our office, and the rest of the office are looking at me like, "Who's this guy?"
Yeah. And you're like,
"Who is this guy?" I'm like, full kit wanker. I'm like absolutely ticked out. Like Christian kind of shambles in, and he kind of reviewed the singles. His single of the week was the White Stripes, if I remember rightly. It was Dry Leaves on the Dirty Ground, or the other way, Dirty Leaves on the Dry Ground. He'd just seen them at Glastonbury, and he was very very effusive. So after that, we kind of struck up a bit of a friendship. And when I was at the NME, he came down to a couple of the award shows. And there was one year I used to organise the NME Awards, and we gave our Godlike Genius Award to Ian Brown from the Stone Roses. And we kind of said to him, "Look, who do you want to present the award to you?" And he's like, "Well, I want a member of the 1999 Man United treble-winning team." And you're like, "Oh." And I was like, "Okay, well, hang on. Well, Teddy Sheringham's counts. Teddy Sheringham was, big part of that team, and he's at West Ham." So I kind of called up Christian, and so we got Teddy Sheringham down to give the award to Ian Brown, and Christian came down, and Jimmy Walker came down, and they just had a right old night of it.
I
And,
can imagine them three. Hell, Jesus. Knowing Jim quite well, it's like, and Christian. Yeah.
Teddy, not so much, I must say. Teddy was kind of in and out. We tried to, he was so funny. We tried to obviously get him a car to kind of come get him to the show. And he refused to give us his home address. He was like, "Oh, I won't give it out." So he made the car pick him up like outside Black Horse Road tube station. And I'm like, surely it's riskier for Teddy Sheringham to be hanging around outside a tube station than for us to know his address so we can pick him up in the car. But he was pretty much in and out. But Christian and Jimmy were there for most of the evening. And I've got a fantastic photo backstage where it's we've got the NME photographer took a photo of us in our photo studio. This like backstage with Ian Brown, Jimmy Walker, Teddy Sheringham, Christian Daly, and me, all sort of with Ian Brown's award aloft. It's like the best and worst five-a-side football team you've ever seen.
Yeah, you won't win much games, but the after dinner, the after game drink will be a bit of a giggle. Yeah.
Not sure what role I'm playing in that team either.
Although Teddy, when you're getting an Uber back, Teddy would just be the last person to drop off.
Yeah.
He'd always pick up the bills. He wouldn't know where he lives. Yeah, it would. Yeah. Oh, right, Christian's in. God bless him. Who's next?
My centre backs. So I've gone for Anton Ferdinand and Winston Reid.
Oh, nice.
So Anton, I think, is purely. I mean, he obviously had a great career with us, but I think the reason he makes my team is, I think, probably the goal that I have celebrated more than any other, which was away at Tottenham. The sad thing is, it wasn't even a winner; it was an equaliser. But that last-minute equaliser in 2005 was insane. I've only been at Tottenham a couple of times, and I've never seen us win there. In fact, I've only seen us draw once, and that was this game. And we were our seats were right at the edge of the away end, where you had the gap, and then you had the Tottenham fans. So we were kind of getting it all game. I mean, there was literally about 3 seats between me and the end of the area, the end of the away end. And when that goal went in, was it 92nd minute or something? Keeper was up, and that it was bedlam, absolute bedlam. And when people who don't go to football, or people who like football but don't go to games, who don't really have that kind of real passion for football and don't really understand the people who do. It's like, if you put someone in that situation where for 91 minutes you've been just pent up frustration, aggression, fear, you kind of think, what's going to happen when we go out that door, all that is kind of just building up for 90 minutes, and that release that one
Of
release
course.
is just like it's like a, you know, that's the reason that we kind of go to
Of
football.
course it is.
And, you know, people who don't understand how can you get so excited about a draw, it's like, you know, you just put them in that situation, and it's like taking LSD. It's like the doors of perception will finally open, and you'll see what it's all about.
So true. Oh,
So,
and Winnie Reed.
when you read, yeah. So I mean, it has to be for that last game at Upton Park, you know, scoring the last goal. And I mean, you know, and for kind of everything else he's done as well. You know, he's been at the club for 10 years, and which, you know, you seem to forget, like, you know, all of the injuries, unfortunately, that kind of blighted his career. I think it stopped him being a top player, but I think also kept him at the club. So I think if he hadn't,
That's a good point. Yeah.
Then he would have got that move to Arsenal when they were sniffing around. So you know, it's not so good for Winston, but good for us. And that's what kept him in that spot where he was, so he could score that last goal and get that win. And it was like, again, it's just one of those moments that just really transcended sort of football. I mean, I don't know about you, but I just knew we were going to win that game. Even when we were 2-1 down, I just knew we were going to win that game.
That's what I've been saying. You know, sometimes when all the chips are down, when it's like, when it needs, and you know, I remember we used to have I remember the season we went down, or I think it was the season we sort of labelled some games as save our season. Do you remember? Like Wigan was our SOS game, we'd lose, but then you knew. When just very rarely have they completely let us down, but even like Man United away at the Great Escape, and you know, they just seem to, I don't know what it is, and that's the frustrating thing for a fan, isn't it? Why can't you just fucking week? You know, it's just like literally, you know, like a Chelsea game this year. I knew he was going to beat Chelsea, just knew it, and there was no logical reason why, apart from it's West Ham. That's literally the only answer I could give.
Yeah.
And that's what
but it's like, thanks for that, but please do it a little bit more often.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, and it sounds ridiculous, but it just felt like, you know, it felt like the ghost of Bobby Moore was kind of guiding that ball into the net. You know, it just felt like that kind of night. It was just a spiritual moment that transcended football. So for that, you know, Winston will always have a place in my heart and my team.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's it. Yeah. And good luck to him. You know, obviously he's doing the MLS. He played the other day, didn't he? He started. Yeah. So good luck to him, because I think, you know,
very much
he's someone that you know, you want to see do well wherever he goes, as you said. I mean, you know, in a weird sort of sliding doors moment, us getting relegated to the Championship made Winston Reid, really, because he came and he wasn't really, he was all right, but that sort of Championship couple of years really developed him to this player that the Arsenals and the Liverpools were sniffing around with, and
then that goal against Millwall didn't help either.
I mean, he isn't. I mean, he's done the Holy Trinity, really, hasn't he? He's done Man United. He's obviously scored the Man United goal. Tottenham he scored against, I believe, and Millwall as well. So you know, you're a legend already. It doesn't matter. He doesn't have to kick another ball again after those. But he's freedom of Newham. Yeah. Right. Okay. Let's go into midfield.
Let's go into midfield. So this is where it starts getting a bit trickier. There's lots of options. I'll start in the middle. So there's a lot of deliberation over this, but in the end, I've gone for Joe Cole.
Yeah.
I think if you're talking about this era, you know, he kind of bookend the two kind of midfield. The other one in the middle is obviously Mark Noble, but they kind of bookend this kind of 21st century period. You know, Joe at that time just embodied like everything about the club. You know, he was like, I remember seeing him sign his forms on the pitch, you know, at half time at the Chelsea game, and Jeremy Nicholas going, you know, you'll be telling your grandchildren about this, and we're all kind of pissing ourselves, and you know, we probably will end up telling our grandchildren about it. But I was at Old Trafford when he made his Premier League debut, the 4-1 defeat to Man United. And he just kind of like, he just grew up with us in the club. And, you know, of all the kind of talents we had at that time, he just seemed to be like the brightest. He seemed to be the most relatable. He seemed to be like the one of us. And he was like a player you could believe in. And he really kind of made you feel for the future of the club. And then obviously it all went horribly wrong. But that relegation season, 2003, when Glenn Roeder made him captain, I mean, what was he, 21 at the time?
Yeah.
And he absolutely led that team, and I was as heartbroken for him when we went down as I was for anyone connected to the club, because you could see what it meant to
totally.
him. And again, if we'd have stayed up, who knows what would have happened to his career with us. But those brief years, he shone pretty brightly in those days. And then obviously he handed that mantle on spiritually to Mark Noble, and I think if you're doing a 21st century West Ham team, it's impossible to ignore the man.
He's been there.
He is this generation's Billy Bonds.
Totally.
He's the player that my kids will think of. When they think back to the kind of their early days of West Ham. He is the legend, and we will never see his like again. I don't think any football clubs will see his like again, to be honest. Just that one club man who's so synonymous with the club and so synonymous with the culture of that club. And and long may that continue. I kind of have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the whole kind of West Ham family and West Ham way, and I kind of found myself quietly nodding in agreement with Sam Allardyce when he was saying the West Ham way, what is that, you never won anything. And it's like, we are a very, very sentimental club, but at the same time I paradoxically kind of hold that view, but I also love the fact that that Mark Noble will be like the name through the stick of rock for generations to come. And I hope they find a place for him at the club when he eventually does hang his boots up. Although that day just never seems to come. I've been as guilty as any of kind of writing him off for about the last 3 or 4 seasons, but
totally,
he just keeps proving us wrong. And I think he probably will do again this season.
Yeah, I think he will, and I think you're right. And I think if you told him whenever it was 12 years ago or whatever that he would still be playing for West Ham, but he'll be playing in a number 10 role, you'd be like, what the fuck? But it just suits him, and you need that presence on the pitch. You just do, and I've seen him watching as a fan, so to speak, obviously when he wasn't in the squad, sitting since restart, obviously sitting in the stands. I watched him, literally watching the guys, watching him, and it's in a way, and it's stupid to say it, but he is a fan, and literally like we would do, he kicks every ball, and he feels every miss. And I just think there's something really, and I know we talk about nostalgia, there's something really magical about that, because it's like he's one of us in that team. And the day he hangs up his boots, we know he's not going to be maybe the next season too. You never know, Mark, but we will lose something, and that's it. Just goes without saying, because you will lose that bit of connection. So there's nothing we can do about it. It's as you said, it's indicative of the modern game. It is, isn't it? You don't get players hanging about anymore.
Absolutely, and we should treasure that while we've got it.
Exactly.
And like I said, I've been trying to run him out of the team for the last 4 seasons, but in reality, we should be treasuring the fact that we've got a player like this, and we're lucky to have him. And let's hope he can keep us up for another year.
Yes, come in, Mark. All right, okay. It's wingers. We can wingers.
Wingers. I've got Trevor Sinclair.
Oh, love the man.
Off on the right, tricky Trev. Again, like that kind of late 90s period, he kind of, him and another player who we'll come to in a moment, kind of embody that for me. Him, Paolo, and Joe Cole were that kind of little triangle of just flaring creativity that just made going to games such a delight. And I feel like, again, I'm a bit uniquely entwined with Trevor Sinclair. So in my mind, he's scored 3 kind of wonder goal volleys in his career. And I'm pretty much willing to bet I'm the only person that's been at the game, apart from him, for all 3 of them. So two for West Ham. There was the one against Charlton where he kind of up on his knee, put it in, and I'm counting the one against Derby where Paolo took the corner, Joe Cole flicked it on, and Trevor did his scissor kick.
Yeah.
But I was also at QPR Barnsley
for them.
when he scored his overhead kick. So my oldest and closest mates is a Barnsley fan. He's from Barnsley, and we occasionally kind of go to each other's games, and he kind of dragged me down to QPR for that game. And we're actually, if you look really closely at the video footage, we're like dead centre behind the goal that Trevor Sinclair scored that overhead kick in. And it was such an incredible goal that all the Barnsley fans just stood up and applauded, apart from my mate, who's got up, stood on his chair, turned around and all and shouted, "What the bloody hell are you doing? He's just scored against us!" And I was like, "Mate, you will never score. You will never see a better goal than that. So sit down and just enjoy it." But yeah, so I'm willing to bet there aren't many people that was at that game that were also at those other two West Ham games. And I was lucky enough to have bumped into him in the last game at Upton Park, actually, and told him that. And I think he kind of corroborated that he doesn't think there's anyone else apart from him that's there either. So me and Trevor, we're star-crossed.
Yeah, beautiful man. Beautiful man. No, when this video comes out, the day before, I interviewed Trevor. So I interviewed Sinclair yesterday.
Okay.
And so wonderful man. Speaks so highly of West Ham, so highly, and just, I mean, that period. I'm the same as you. Sort of that period, that Redknapp era. That obviously, sort of 99 or for a few years there. Was brilliant and so much fun and just so entertaining as a fan. You just didn't know what was going to happen, and Trevor played a massive part of that. But also and we spoke about the team and the squad, and he just listed some of the guys. And it's like, well, why wouldn't he? He says, I had an absolute ball of a time, and of course you would. You had John Moncur, you had Ruddock, you had Ian Wright, you had all these players, plus you had all these youngsters coming through like Rio and Joe Cole, and it was really fun. It's probably the last, I reckon, it's talking to a lot of the ex-players, it's probably the last era where they would go out and have a good drink.
Yeah.
So he's like, to be honest, maybe
sometimes.
That's what he said. Maybe too much. I said, we finished fifth. We might have won the league if we didn't go out every. So he goes, and he was telling me what he used to do on a Tuesday. He used to go out, go across the road to the toll gate for a few, and then get in a cab and go up London. Get in about 1 or 2, and they'd stop training. They'd not do training on a Wednesday because Harry knew they were all going out the piss. And I was like, okay. Thanks, Trev. But he just told us all this information. Great story about the Intertoto Cup, and I've mentioned it a couple of times already on the channel because it was so funny. And when they were playing a Croatian team away,
Osijek.
Yeah, that was it. Basically, Suker and Stimac, obviously both Croatian players, they organised what's it called? Like a team bonding day. And it was shooting. So all the boys went, yeah, sure, assuming it was, clay pigeon shooting, double. So they get driven to this forest, a clearing, and then Suker and that lot have got this big bag, and it's full of AK-47s. This was the morning before the game. So they're shooting AK-47s in the middle of this random forest, in the middle of Croatia. And John, old Monksy, likes to get naked, stripped down, completely bollock naked. Morning of the game, started bunny hopping around the forest, going, shoot me, I'm a bunny. Suker and Stimac's face went white, and they shouted out, John, that's a landmine field which hasn't been cleared yet. Because obviously it was still during the Troubles, wasn't it? The Troubles, they just really sort of proper fish. And then John just stood there, and then had to try and retrace his bunny hop steps back to the thing. I was like, just great just a great time to be a fan. I just loved it, and Trevor epitomised it, wasn't it? You know, and we talk about players and the value of players and how much players go and how much they're worth. We bought Trevor Sinclair for 2.7
Yeah,
million combined.
it's
You
crazy,
know
isn't
what I mean? It's mental. You talk about getting a good. That was a, you know, obviously we got rid of Dowie and Roland as part of that as well. That was an amazing. That was sort of the modern day equivalent of the Alan Devonshire £5,000 job. Do you know what I mean? It's
Absolutely, yeah.
absolutely brilliant. All right, tricky Trebsy.
Tricky Trent. And then almost at the other end of the spectrum, on the other side, Dimitri Payet. So
God bless.
I just cannot hear a bad word said against the man. I know there are many fans who obviously and rightly so, and I can understand why, just so soured by the way that he left. But that last season at Upton Park it wouldn't have happened without him. He was by far and away the most talented, skillful player I've seen play for West Ham, and it was a joy to watch. And that season was my eldest son's first season as a season ticket.
Wow.
And I think I've talked about how obsessive he now is about West Ham. I think Dimitri Payet is the 100% reason for that, and so I will always love him for putting the love of West Ham in my son's heart, because watching him play week in, week out, of course you're going to fall in love with that team, and he was absolutely incredible.
He was,
and again, I understand why people don't like him, the snake and all that, and the way he left was disappointing, but again, it's like, enjoy what you've got while you've got it. And I'll be surprised if we see a player that good play for West Ham again in our lifetimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be surprised, I'll be surprised if we could get someone who's a Ballon d'Or. He's a Ballon d'Or nominee when he's still playing at West Ham. He's like, hello. He's like, and he was just. It doesn't happen. I could probably count one more person. Who you'll probably talk about in a bit when you talk about your forwards, who, when my non-West Ham mates were talking, say we had West Ham playing Tottenham or Chelsea, my Chelsea friends were like, oh, God, we're playing against Payet, or playing against Di Canio, but it was always, oh, God, Payet. And he was like the man. He was like every other team wanted, and that never happens. It might be some people, obviously anything with Declan Rice, and some people think, oh, non-West Ham fans, oh, he's so overrated, Everyone wanted Dimitri Payet, and
nobody thought Payet was overrated. Nobody.
No, exactly.
If anything, he was underrated, and
totally.
Just we talk about players who can single-handedly win games. He single-handedly could win games. I'm thinking Everton away. That's a performance that you just will never see but a West Ham player do. Just takes that game and said, you know what, we're not losing this game. We are going to get something out of this. That turnaround was just incredible. And he did it more often than not. He was absolutely on it. Obviously we'll talk about Paolo in a little bit, but Paolo was a very up and down player. Payet was just an up player. He very, very, very rarely didn't show up, and he just made everyone else better. And that last season at Upton Park, him, Lanzini, Song, just like pinging the ball around like it was on a string. I mean, it was just magical to watch.
It really, really was, and he made that last season, and I think in the same way, he made your son fall in love with West Ham. I think for every West Ham fan, every West Ham fan could not have enjoyed that season if it wasn't for him.
So
and it's true. What happens after, and you get that with those maverick players. With those enigmas, Arnautovic will throw his toys and bugger it off to China. That probably your next pick we only got because he pushed over a referee. People forget.
If Payet had been a loyal, absolutely level down to earth kind of player, he wouldn't have been playing for us. He'd have been playing for a much bigger team.
It'd still be at Marseille because he kicked off at Marseille to come here, isn't he? And it'd still be there doing.
Damage goods is the best we can hope for in this kind of in the way that football's set up now. So of course it was going to go wrong. but it went so right that I'm prepared to forgive him for how long it went.
I agree. Right, okie dokie. Up front.
So, well, no surprises. Paolo Di Canio.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So as Payet was to my son, I think he was to me. You know, he absolutely re-energized my love for West Ham in that late 90s, and it was, you know, we talk about players who are worth the entrance fee alone. He was worth the entrance fee when he turned it on. He was incredible. You know, obviously lucky enough to be at the game where he scored the greatest goal that the Bowling Ground has seen against Wimbledon, and I was lucky enough to be at Old Trafford when he scored the goal that knocked Man United out the cup. But I was lucky enough to be at, like, I remember going to Coventry away and we won 3-0, and I'd actually I'd bought the tickets as a birthday present for a mate and he didn't want to go, but so I thought, well, sod it, I'm just going to get the tickets anyway, and presented them. Hey, I've got you a birthday present. And he's like, oh, we've got to go to bloody Coventry. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to Coventry. And we won 3-0, and we had seats pretty close to the touchline, and we basically just had a Paolo masterclass. You know, just getting that close-up look at his touch, his ball control. It was just exquisite. And, you know, he was an absolute magician. And again, if his attitude had been right, then he would be talked about as one of the greatest players of the last 30, 40 years. But, you know, as we know, his head was a little bit askew, and that's why we got him. You know, if his head had been screwed on right, he wouldn't have been playing for us, and we wouldn't have had those moments.
No, that's a good point. And yeah, as you said, he was just box office, wasn't he? Just bonkers, and we love players who are just on the edge, don't we?
Yeah.
And you just don't know what day he's gonna, you know, and that's what it's almost like you spoke at the beginning about football being modern day football being sanitized, and that's even true with the characters, isn't it? You don't get characters like Paolo, or, you know, or if we look at West Ham, like Johnny Monks, or even like Trevor. I mean, you know, these guys are just like, you know, they were characters in the game, and obviously sports so uber professional and so sanitized that anyone who does stand out, like a Jack Grealish, for example, everyone hates. And it's like, well, he's just a cocky little sod, isn't he? But it's like fair, you know, it's like, I'm being funny. Paolo would like sit on a ball on a touchline and head in his hands and, oh, you know, like, woe is me, and die, you know, and dive. And...
We talked about earlier about that 5-4 game against Bradford. Right?
Yeah.
You just could not imagine that happening in football.
No.
It's, you know, there's just all manner of checks and balances now as to why that situation would not happen. And if it did, you know, we would never hear the end of it. You know, it would be analysed to death. There'd be countless editorials about why it's the death of football and everything else. But, you know, it was kind of par for the course with Paolo Di Canio. Right?
It just was everything. It just was Paolo. Exactly. It was Paolo. Just if he had like an hour and a half episode of himself, that Bradford City game was it. It was like a Paolo special on Netflix, and it was every facet of Paolo, from, you know, even like, you know, like the sort of pantomime villain. Oh, I'm going off, and the way he just sat on the side and everyone started singing Paolo Di Canio, and it sort of energized him, and he's like, off I go, you know, the superhero, and, you know, it's just brilliant.
Yeah,
it's so much fun.
Football as theatre, but like litural theatre, pantomime.
That was pantomime, yeah.
And then you had the Sublime as well, and that FA Cup tie at Old Trafford, I think, remains my favourite game that I've been to in my 40 years of going to West Ham. It was just incredible, and again, we had no expectations. You know, we had a friend that lived up in Manchester, so we used to go to Old Trafford a fair bit. We'd make a weekend of it, and that game, if you remember, was on a Sunday. So we went up on the Saturday, and we got absolutely trashed in Manchester, and so, you know, we kind of crawled out of bed the following morning, went had a big fry up, got to the ground, just thinking, Christ, we've got to drive home after this, like, to get the game over with, you know, again expecting us to get beat, and then it was just incredible. And, you know, there was like 9,000 West Ham fans up there that day, singing, you know, can we play you every week at Old Trafford. It was unbelievable. It's like that, you know, for me, is what football is all about. So it was, Sorry, I've got to give my wife the car key. Hang on a moment.
Listen, don't be silly.
Excuse me.
Oh, don't be silly. God, it's all fun and games.
So that moment in a work Zoom call when the dog comes in and crawls over the
Well,
desk.
I usually get the door, so the door will open, and the wife will say before she'll open the door and then say, "Are you on a call?" rather than knock, and I go, "Hello, are you on a call?" Yes, I am. Clearly, I'm on a call. Yeah, okay, no problems. But yeah, so yeah, but I mean, yeah, Paolo was just Paolo, and it's just that Man United game. There's something special about cup games, isn't it? Because you get loads of away fans. Fans just seem a bit more up for it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what it is, but it just maybe because more away fans are going or something like that. And by all accounts, that Man United game was just epic. All the people I talked to went to that one. I remember watching it in university and Loughborough, and I was watching it in the uni bar, and I think I was the only West Ham fan that day. It was full of Man United fans, and my mates who were Wednesday and Villa and Leeds. So like, you know, they supported West Ham obviously because I supported them. So yeah, we had a little pocket in the middle of Loughborough.
I've seen us lose 7-1 up there.
Of course, yeah.
I went to the 6-0 afterwards, obviously, where Gary Breen decided that he'd try and impersonate a footballer for a day, and you know, just to have that. You know, you don't go to Old Trafford, or certainly at that time we didn't go to Old Trafford and win. And you know, to have that moment was superb. And there was horrendous roadworks on the way back at the ground. I think it took us something like 8 hours to get home, and we loved every minute of it.
Didn't care.
No, it was like just a load of West Ham fans stuck in traffic, singing out the window. It's absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. Okie dokie. Paolo's in. So who's the last?
So, I mean, I really kind of struggled with getting his partner up front, and it was a really close call between two men that sort of played similar time. But I'm gonna punt for Bobby Zamora. Z-Man, and I think he just had that purple run in like sort of 2005, 2006, where at the end of 2005, the playoff semi-final away at Ipswich, where it was just fantastic, you know. And then the final, got the goal, and then sort of took it into the Premier League and destroying Sol Campbell at Highbury was, I think, you know, it's again one of those kind of weird games that is just the magic of football distilled. You know, the last time we were playing at Highbury, and again, no one really fancied us, and we just turned it on. And you know, to traumatise a central defender, and you know, one of Sol Campbell's no small beer, you know, but a very, very, very good Premier League and international defender. To traumatise him so much, he has to leave the ground at half time. I mean, you know, for that, Bobby Zamora, you definitely get a place in my team.
And he said that purple patch. He had the purple. I remember the purple patch when we got promoted. I swear, for like, I've got a vivid. And again, I'm crap at memories, but I've got a vivid recollection. The first 2 months or so, he was like top goal scorer in the Premier League, but I don't remember him scoring a good goal. It was just it came off his head or his arse or his chest. You know, not like a clean goal, but I don't care.
Yeah, and you know, he gets. I think history has done him wrong, Bobby Zamora. Yeah. People kind of remember him as a bit of a figure of fun, but you know, he came in replacing Jermaine Defoe, who is probably one of the best finishers. It'd be up there, I think, with probably Cotty as one of the best finishers that the club has ever had. And you know, Bobby came in a completely different type of player, and you know, I think a lot of people judged him quite harshly in comparison. But he was one of those West Ham players who gave his all for the club, gave his all for the cause, and he scored some really important goals. And to be the goal scorer, the last away team to win at Highbury and the first away team to win at the Emirates, you know, that's a pretty good accolade to have on your CV, isn't it?
Yeah.
but it was, I mean, it was touch and go though with him and Marlon Harewood for my 21st century. I love Marlon, and again, like the FA Cup semi-final was, one of those moments that just make all the dross worthwhile.
Yeah.
And but I'm afraid Bobby just sneaks it for the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Good man. And that finishes the team, Dan, nicely.
There you go.
An hour and 10 minutes has flown by.
Because
it does, doesn't it? It just does these things. It's crazy. I love it.
Yeah,
it's been brilliant. Thank you, Dan. It's
thank
been really,
you.
really, really, really lovely chatting. Lovely.
Thank you. Very much enjoyed it.
That's brilliant. Obviously, thanks everyone for watching or listening, or if you're listening to a podcast or YouTube or whatever. Whatever you do, give it a subscribe, give it a share, let everyone know about it. And until next time, from me and Dan, take care, everyone. Stay safe. Come on, you irons, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.